Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you, as always, by Replenishing Care and Technologies. Make sure you check them out at rcandt.com. I'm your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my lovely co-host, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How about you?
All right. Last night, we had Tuesday night football, and it was kind of an unfamiliar Tuesday evening in Tennessee, 17 days since the Titans last played, the blur of a COVID-19 outbreak, and its disastrous domino effect gave way to relief of the simplicity of a football game on this Tuesday night. And for all coronavirus issues, delays, and investigations, the Titans were able to concentrate on football for the first time in what feels like a very long time and came away reaffirming they're one of the best teams around, Sam.
Yeah, at this point, after Kansas City lost to the Raiders this past weekend, are we not? The Titans are probably the best team in the AFC now, right? Or at least they look like their best team. They knocked off the Bills. You have been saying were potentially number one. And with Kansas City dropping one game, isn't Tennessee up there as possibly the best right now?
Well, they have to be up there, and they were led by an excellent performance by Ryan Tannehill, who you hate. The Titans improved to 4-0. They send the Bills to their first loss at 4-1. And if there were any worries about being rusty with all the time away from real practices, much less a game, the Titans showed none as a Malcolm Butler interception led Tennessee to an early lead on a night in which the Titans never trailed. There's been all kinds of news on a daily basis about the Titans over the last couple weeks, and it was almost forgotten that this is a very good football team, and this is a team that was in the AFC Championship game last year. And the way the defense played last night, I don't think there's any reason to believe they can't get back there or maybe even win it this time.
Yeah, one of the biggest questions I had for Tennessee entering the year was how that defense played, because they had a solid defense last year, but not like a top one. Baltimore was better. I think the 49ers were better. The Steelers had better defenses. But this year, the Titans, their defense looked phenomenal last night against a dynamic quarterback in Josh Allen, against a solid running game. They had a fantastic outing, and right now they might be the most complete team in that entire division.
Yeah, and Ryan Tannehill was a guy who was picked by the Miami Dolphins in 2012 as the 8th overall player selected. He never really found that elite level in 6 seasons with the team that drafted him. But last year, he was the comeback player of the year. He's found a new home and a team to lead in Tennessee. And on a night when, the man beast known as Derrick Henry was somewhat stymied, Tannehill stepped up and was marvelous to the tunes of 4 touchdowns. And, he even ran the ball 42 times on 4 carries. He had a 10-yard jaunt into the end zone ahead of halftime for a 21-10 lead. He had a quarterback rating of 129.3 and 28 passing attempts, 195 yards, 3 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, I think, drives this offense. But I think now Tannehill is the leader of the offense, and it's the quarterback that the Titans need to actually be a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, he's actually performing better this year than it was last season. And last season, he was already one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. This year, he's been even better. And I think he's taking a larger role in the offense. It felt like Derrick Henry was the main focal point last year. He's still essential for that offense to work. But right now, it feels like Tannehill and his arm are actually what's producing most of the points and most of the leads that Tennessee's getting at this point.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Last year, it felt like Tannehill was able to do this because Derrick Henry opened up the play-action game for him, where last night we saw Ryan Tannehill is capable of doing this on his own. Now we go to the Buffalo Bills' Josh Allen. He had taken giant strides forward so far this season. Tuesday night was not one of them. So I think the question here is this just a blip on the radar? And, I would say this. Out of 5 games, 4 of them he's been great in. I would say that I would lean towards a blip on the radar.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that later in my quarterback power rankings. But for me, one bad week is not enough to sink a soaring ship. And right now, Josh Allen's been doing phenomenal through the first 4 weeks. He had that one bad game. He's still a young quarterback. He's still learning. The Tennessee Titans are a very good defense, and Mike Vrabel's a very good head coach, especially when it comes to game playing for dynamic quarterbacks. So I'm not going to hold this against Josh Allen. I think he'll rebound just fine next week. And he'll play Kansas City next week, so there's going to be a lot of stuff on the line there. We'll really learn a lot about the Buffalo Bills and about Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think we'll learn a lot about Kansas City, too, because they're both coming off of bad losses. Now, Stephon Diggs has been a phenomenal addition to the Bills, and a huge compliment to the maturation of Allen as a premier NFL quarterback from a raw, gifted prospect. Now, this was a new look, though, last night as John Brown was inactive. And Diggs still caught 10 balls for 106 yards. But John Brown's the other guy that can really stretch the field for Josh Allen. And I think we saw without John Brown, you take away one of those weapons, you really limit the success of Josh Allen right now in his career.
Wait, Stephon Diggs got targeted 16 times last night. Really, they were going to him the entire time. And I think that's a bit of an issue because you want to target Stephon Diggs because he's your best receiver. But if you don't have any diversity in who you're looking to for that kind of situation, it's pretty easy for defenses just to focus on the one player and kind of shut him out or control what you're doing. That's really what happened. They didn't have enough weapons there for Josh Allen to maybe manipulate defense and force them to give him new looks.
Now, Derrick Henry had an off night for Derrick Henry, 19 carries for 57 yards. But the impact of the physical play, the stiff arm he put on Josh Norman was devastating. And the thing that stands out to me about this Tennessee team, and I think where they could be the best team right now in the AFC, is the fact that this is a really physical football team. And Kansas City, Buffalo, they're good football teams. It's not like they're soft, but they're not physical like Tennessee. I mean, when you got a running back who is decleating, your cornerback, I mean, that sets a precedent. It sets a tone for a game. And I think the physicality of Tennessee is what really gives them a chance here when you go down the stretch of this season.
Part of that is just how the roster is constructed, but also how Mike Vrabel coaches. He coaches like he wants his players to go out there and just knock the socks off everyone else they're playing. Derrick Henry, I mean, he is probably a one-of-a-kind athlete in the league right now because of his size, because of his position. I mean, he is 6'3", 247 pounds. He's bigger than some linebackers out there. I know the Bills have Tremaine Edmonds. He's a bit of a smaller linebacker, even though he's a Pro Bowler. You can't match a guy like that up against Derrick Henry and expect huge success. So right now, having him is a huge part of what they're doing. But defensively as well, guys like Jadeveon Clowney, Harold Landry, they have so many incredibly physical athletes who are just going to basically punch you and knock you back. It's a terrific build for the offense and the organization. That's where they're having so much success.
All right, let's go ahead, and we're going to look at Sam Teets' quarterback power rankings headed into Week 6. You want to pull those up on the screen, Sam?
Yep, I can if you can give me 1 second. But I think we had a little bit of a shakeup today or this week, but not really much. I mean, more along the lines of the second-tier quarterbacks decided to flip around a little bit. And I'm just pulling it up right now. Okay, there we go.
All right, you can find these on thegruelingtruth.com. Sam writes them every week, usually on Tuesday. We had to push it back to Wednesday because we had a game last night. When we look at this, I think the top two are the top two. They're probably going to be the top two all season long. Number one's Russell Wilson, who did not play as well as he had been. But the thing about Russell Wilson is if you give him a shot at the end of the game, he's going to beat you, Sam.
Yeah, and to me, that's what matters. You can go out there and you could struggle for 3 quarters, but if you end up pulling your team through it at the very end of the game like Russell Wilson did, that just solidifies his spot as an elite quarterback and as a player. He controls the game, really. He's the kind of guy who can go out there almost by himself and impact the football game and get your team to 8 wins or something like that. He's been phenomenal, and he's finally getting the recognition he deserves.
All right, number 2, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what more can you say? The dude's completing 70% of his passes, and has he thrown an interception yet? I don't think he has. He's on a pace to throw 52 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So I think 1-2 is going to stay like this all year long. And it wouldn't surprise me if Aaron Rodgers every once in a while bounces up to number 1 and it goes back and forth. I think these are the main 2 contenders for the NFL MVP. And I think these guys are playing at a rate that I don't know that we've seen too much in the history of the NFL even.
No, just Aaron Rodgers alone, look at his numbers. I mean, he's going to have, if he keeps up his current pace, it will be his best season. And keep in mind, this is a 2-time MVP we're talking about. And he will have a better year than both those seasons combined. And Russell Wilson might have his own year that matches that total. So really, we're talking about 2 guys for now who are setting MVP and also all-time season paces at this point.
Yeah, we've already talked about Ryan Tannehill. I think number 3 is fine for him. Number 4, Patrick Mahomes. Number 5, Josh Allen. Mahomes and Allen both had rough weeks. So their clash next week is going to be huge for both of these teams. It's going to be huge for your quarterback rankings too, Sam.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so if you lose that game, you could fall down to maybe number 7 if you perform badly. But if you go out there, you win, you score 40-something points, I mean, you're back in the top 3 probably easily. So really, we're looking at a situation where we could see a guy fall in the top 5, maybe drop down closer to 10 if they don't play well.
All right, number 6, Deshaun Watson. You got to explain this to me, Sam. They're 1-4. He threw 2 picks. I know you go to Clemson, but damn, Sam.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I give it for the win. They've also been, terrible. Really, the entire team's been awful.
You got to give him credit for 4 losses too, though, and just 1 win. Come on, Sam.
I know, but he's doing a lot with a little there. He's forcing it. I could see him put this way. I could see switching him all the way down to number 9. I even said this when I was putting it last night. I could see moving him down to number 9, number 10. But really, to me, there's not as much separating these guys in that range as maybe you think.
Come on, Sam. The thing is separating these guys is he's 1-4. And I know he's not working with much. And I think Deshaun Watson, if you had me just pick the 5 quarterbacks I would want to start a team with, he would be towards the top of that list. But I think it's a little high. Derek Carr at number 7, I think should be ahead of Deshaun Watson. And I think what we saw is this: when Henry Ruggs is healthy and he has a deep threat, Derek Carr's a really good quarterback. People go back to 2016 or so, where he was one of the favorites to be the MVP. The Raiders looked like they were going to be the number 1 seed. He gets hurt, and everything kind of falls apart. I don't think Derek Carr gets the credit he deserves.
No, I don't think he does. I mean, he got a lot of unfair criticism over the past couple of years. But really, when you take away guys like Amari Cooper from the offense, you never give him a true number 1 option afterwards. How can you blame him for when your offense has trouble? They finally have a player who could be a number 1 option in Ruggs, or at the very least, a quality deep threat. And that's what they've been missing this entire time. And now the Raiders are looking like they could be a legitimate contender. Not a contender this year, but a playoff contender potentially.
Yeah, well, they're definitely a playoff contender. Number 8, Jared Goff, I think should be ahead of Deshaun Watson also. 21 for 30, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he won again.
Yeah, he has 4 consecutive games with a passer rating over 100. I'm pretty sure he only had 4 or 5 of that all last season. Yeah, he only had 4 games like that last season alone. So he's already probably had a better year this season than he did in 2019. I don't really understand what went wrong last year. It's hard for me to look back at it. They still had a somewhat of a running game. Maybe it wasn't as good as this year. But to me, this is a significant improvement. I don't know why the drastic change over the past 2 or 3 years, but for some reason, he seems to be rebounding really well.
Well, my point would be this. With most NFL quarterbacks, you get very few Dan Marinos that are just lights out awesome the first year. I say usually about the 3rd year, you find out if somebody has got something or not. And I think we're finding out that Jared Goff is better than what we expected. Drew Brees, number 9, should be way ahead of Deshaun Watson also.
He played well. He kind of always back and forth on Monday, honestly, though.
He's playing without Michael Thomas most of the season, and he's still putting up huge numbers. His team is still in first place, even though it's tied for first place. I just think Drew Brees, I don't think you give him enough credit. And I think a lot of that's just his age, and you think that he's going to peter out at some point around week 11 or week 12, which may be the case, but you can't hold that against him right now.
No, I suppose not. He's also working with one of the NFL's best offensive line, Alvin Kamara, and Emmanuel Sanders would be the best wide receiver on the Houston Texans if he was there.
Now we're going to compare it to the Houston Texans?
Oh, we were talking about Deshaun Watson before, weren't we?
Yeah, so?
I'm just saying he's working with quite a lot.
Watson win a Super Bowl or win an MVP? I don't think so. Number 10, Lamar Jackson at number 10. Lamar Jackson has not been good the last few weeks. He wasn't good against Cincinnati. He ran for nothing. He threw for 180 yards. I will say it again. I think Lamar Jackson's overrated.
Yeah, he certainly has struggled this year. I think 10 to 12 is probably where he sits in the league right now, just based on what's happened the first couple of weeks. He has not been a dominant player. I don't know. Kansas City obviously is the huge black eye for him right now, but I don't know against a team like Cincinnati if he's just playing poorly because he doesn't have to go out there and play phenomenally, or I don't really know. I'm interested to see how the season plays out when they play Pittsburgh, because when they play a defense like Pittsburgh's, we'll find out whether this is going to be a trend. He's going to be like this all year long, or whether he's going to reverse course.
He played a Bengals defense that's not very good, and he got shut down. Let's not forget, I think there's a fumble recovery for a touchdown in this game. The Bengals defense only gave up 20 points. The Bengals defense played really well, and especially once you get past the first quarter. The Bengals defense shut them down. I think to have Lamar Jackson rated ahead of Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Ben Roethlisberger. How can Big Ben be 13 still? Are you really a Steeler fan? Big Ben's played better than Brady this year. He doesn't make mistakes right now. I mean, to me, Big Ben should be sitting, honestly, I think at number 6 right here.
Really that high? I mean, one of the issues I have with Big Ben right now is that he has like the lowest completion percentage over 20 yards downfield or something like that. He's not throwing the ball very deep. And personally, I believe because from watching him, I believe it's because he can't do that anymore, not because he's choosing not to. I believe it's because he's not comfortable throwing the ball downfield at this point, physically.
Yeah. He was 27 for 34, 239 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he is comfortable throwing the ball somewhere. And I'm telling you, when you look at this, if Chase Claypool's the real deal, I don't know. Big Ben's what, like 10 touchdowns and 1 interception this year with a team that is undefeated. And you've got Deshaun Watson as being better than him right now.
I see where you're going here, Mike. I'm starting to understand it. I get it.
I mean, because when you look at it, Justin Herbert makes stupid mistakes. Tom Brady's thrown a fair amount of interceptions. Lamar Jackson hadn't really done anything. I mean, I could see Drew Brees ahead of him maybe. Jared Goff, no. Derek Carr, maybe. Deshaun Watson, no. I mean, to me, Big Ben's 6 or 7 right now. I think that you're underrating Big Ben. When we go to 14, Teddy Bridgewater is another guy that I think should be higher than this. Teddy Bridgewater has played better than Deshaun Watson, and he's done it with not a whole hell of a lot on offense to help him also.
That's true. I mean, they're the surprise of the season so far. They're going out there, they're competing at a high level. And surprisingly, Carolina, even without Christian McCaffrey, is still managing to win games. They've got a tough stretch. We talked about this, I think, the other day. They've got a tough stretch for the next, I want to say 5 out of 6 games are actually against competitive teams. We'll see how they do in that run and whether or not they can stay at a high level. Right now, I had trouble placing Bridgewater because I wanted Bridgewater and Ben to be top 10. I wanted Herbert to be top 10 as well. I just couldn't find all the places to put them.
Well, right now, Teddy Bridgewater's 3-2. He was 27 for 37, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's won some games nobody thought they would win, which were probably all 3 games that they won. I think he should be higher. Number 15, Dak Prescott. Doesn't matter. He's not playing again this year. Number 16, Joe Burrow. And that's not to be mean. It's just hell. What's the use of talking about it? Dak's a top 10 quarterback to me. He's been top 10 all year. You know, he's played well. It's not his fault. 16, we got Joe Burrow. I expected more from Burrow against Baltimore, but I think here, once again, the coaching in Cincinnati is so atrocious, so hideous. I don't know if I could come up with a joke. I mean, Joe Burrow didn't have much of a chance here. I don't know why they continue to not go up tempo with Joe Burrow. I think they're stunting his growth. 17, Kyler Murray. I don't know how Kyler Murray gets ranked that high, to tell you the truth.
What are the other options? Cam Newton hasn't played in 2 weeks pretty much, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is so up and down week to week that it's hard to tell what he's going to do.
Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick hadn't been up and down. He's been pretty good the last 2 weeks. And he tore.
Well, a couple. It's not like he's been perfect throughout the entire year.
Yeah, but he hadn't been for the entire year. What the hell's Kyler Murray done this year? You telling me Kyler Murray hadn't been hot and cold? I mean,
Ryan Fitzpatrick had 3 picks in the first week, no touchdowns, and then week 4, he had 2 picks, no touchdowns. He's had 2 terrible games this year so far.
And Kyler Murray hasn't?
He's had 1 really bad game.
He's had 1 really bad game. He's sitting at 3-2 with a team you thought that could make the playoffs. He played well against San Francisco. I mean, he played – I don't think he played – you played the freaking Jets, and you got 1 touchdown and 1 interception. It's the Jets. I mean,
Cam 20 points.
Cam Newton, he got the COVID. He can't be there. Matt Stafford at 20 is Matt Stafford. Kirk Cousins at 21, probably about where he belongs. 22, Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew is an all right quarterback. He just doesn't have much to work with. How in the hell is Andy Dalton all the way down at 23? The man has only thrown 2 incompletions through 5 weeks of this season.
Yeah, and he's played how many snaps? I mean, he played a quarter and a half of football. Look, he'll move up. I'm not saying this is where he's going to stay for the rest of the year. He's going to move up. And I knew you were going to have an issue with this because I think on Monday you said, there's no way I'm taking Kirk Cousins over Andy Dalton. I was kind of laughing because I already set up some of the rankings here. So I knew this was going to be a conversation. But Dalton will move up. It's just that he's only played, a quarter and a half of football so far. So you can't put him in the top. I can't put him in the top 20.
He's played almost perfect.
Almost perfectly through maybe 17 to 18 minutes of football so far.
Yeah. But you know what? With Kirk Cousins, I don't know that we've ever seen 17 straight minutes of quality football this year. 24 Baker Mayfield, I think should be higher. I don't know how Baker Mayfield can be below Kirk Cousins.
He threw 2 interceptions the other day. We're talking about he almost gave the game to the Colts.
Well, this is the thing. He didn't give the game to the Colts. What did the Vikings do this last week? They win or lose? Oh, hell, they lost, didn't they? All right. And when you look at this, I'm pretty sure Kirk Cousins turned the ball over too. I mean, you sit there and you rip on the 2 interceptions, but Kirk Cousins had an interception and a lost fumble. That's the same amount of turnovers. The only difference is Baker Mayfield won. And the only difference is this: Baker Mayfield's team's 4-1, Kirk Cousins' team's 1-4. To have Gardner Minshew ahead of Baker Mayfield is an atrocity.
I don't know, Mike.
This is similar as to when you watch Elvis Presley in concerts in 1976. It's just disgusting because he's way overweight. And he sweats, really bad because he's way overweight. So when I look at this, Baker Mayfield, you give no respect to. You never will. I think it's just the way it is. I think it's because you're a Pittsburgh Steeler fan and you consider the Cleveland Browns to be a Division III college. But I just think that Baker Mayfield is 4-1. There's a lot to be said for that. So Baker hadn't screwed up too much stuff or they wouldn't be 4-1. And they've won 4 consecutive games after a horrible outing against Baltimore in week 1. And I'll tell you this, Baker Mayfield has outplayed Lamar Jackson's ass this year. The only reason Lamar Jackson's sitting in number 10 is because everybody loves Lamar. And everybody hates Baker because of those pathetic commercials he does that seem like they play on a loop on every NFL Sunday.
That's true. Those commercials are always on. But same point, Baker Mayfield, there's a couple games this year where he's going to be the reason why they're going to lose.
See, that's the thing. They're 4-1. There aren't a couple games where he's lost so far. So once again, you're guessing on how this turns out. These are power rankings for right now. Do you really think Lamar Jackson has outplayed Baker Mayfield this year?
Yeah.
Really? Lamar Jackson was terrible against Kansas City. Lamar Jackson was terrible against Cincinnati. What the hell's Lamar Jackson got? Lamar Jackson, you want to talk about weapons. Lamar Jackson has got a great defense. Baker's got some more weapons. Baker Mayfield's been better. He's 4-1. It's the same record that I think that Lamar Jackson has. Yeah, but come on, right. Lamar Jackson accounted for 180 yards last week. Baker Mayfield accounted for 247 yards, 2 touchdowns. I know he threw 2 picks, but he also won the game against a good football team. Lamar Jackson played poorly and won the game against a bad football team.
Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield have almost the same number of passing yards right now. 976 to 949. Lamar Jackson's got 9 touchdowns, so does Baker Mayfield, but Lamar only has 2 picks. Baker Mayfield has 4.
So now you see why it's so stupid to have one at number 10 and the other one at number 24.
Maybe that's the takeaway here, but I'm not taking Baker Mayfield over Lamar either way.
I would. Except for those commercials. I'd take Lamar if you're going to make commercials. Number 25, Nick Foles. Well, he's Nick Foles. But, the Bears are 4-1 right now. And I think to have Nick Foles at 25 is kind of stupid too. No offense. I mean no harm.
I mean no harm. I'm just out to rip you apart on half your picks. But
that makes sense. I'm not ripping you apart. The thing is this. It's more fun because I never looked at this until – I first saw it right here. But Nick Foles, he played better than Kirk Cousins. Nick Foles is 2-1, right? Yeah. He gives them a chance to win. He played well this last week. They won a game that a lot of people thought that they would not win. They beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You yourself said you thought the Buccaneers would take care of this game because Nick Foles was the quarterback for the Bears, and they didn't have a quarterback. And he was 30 for 42 for 243 and a touchdown, and they beat Tom Brady. You should give a little bit of credit for that instead of ranking him at 25. Now, I don't think he should sit at 15, but at 25, I'd put him ahead of Gardner Minshew, Kirk Cousins, Matt Stafford, and Cam Newton since he's got the COVID.
Yeah, having him not play in the last 2 weeks is really kind of messing up my list here a little bit.
Yeah, maybe you should start putting a quarterback that plays for the Patriots on the list, huh? Just an idea.
Well, I didn't play this week.
I know, so it worked out good. But the week before, a different quarterback did play, but they both would be ranked at the bottom.
Yeah, they both were in the bottom. They were both below 30, I'm pretty sure.
Number 26, Matt Ryan. He should be good now that Raheem Morris has taken the helm. That is obviously, a lot of sarcasm. Number 27, Carson Wentz. He's a lot better than 27, but he doesn't deserve to be ranked better than 27 right now. Joe Flacco at 28. I think he got to be ranked at 5 just for having to be a New York Jet.
Yeah, he's got to start again next week. This is Sam Darnold's not going to be able to play.
Yeah, well, they're sacrificing Joe Flacco to the football gods. Number 29, C.J. Beathard. C.J. Beathard. How could C.J. Beathard be ranked ahead of anybody? C.J. Beathard shouldn't even be in the NFL. He was an average quarterback at Iowa.
Yeah, but look below him on this list.
Yeah.
Look at the performances from these other guys.
I think the list actually should probably have been cut off before you got to C.J. Beathard.
Probably. We're talking about NFL quarterbacks, right?
Yeah. Phillip Rivers, though, I'm pretty sure is better than C.J. Beathard, even though he's, done. And the thing that's really bad is when you watch, a nose tackle bull rush the center and push him into him, and it takes him, almost 16 seconds to step to one side or the other to try to get away.
He falls in slow motion.
Yeah, he's terrible. He actually gives me some hope that the Bengals could beat the Colts this week because, hell, he may throw 2 or 3 interceptions that are pick sixes, and then the Bengals can score some points.
That's why he's all the way down at 30. He lost in the game against Cleveland. They were in that game, and Rivers throws 2 picks. I don't know why they weren't running the ball more, why they left the running game. But Rivers throws 2 picks, and that's basically the game for Cleveland.
Because the Colts always leave the running game. Number 31, Kyle Allen. Man, it's the last time we'll have to put him on here probably. 32, Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy G's pretty awesome. 33, Daniel Jones. He's still in the NFL. 34, Alex Smith. Alex Smith should be up at number 28 just because he walked on the field and played a game.
Okay, I said it earlier in the Russell Wilson thing at the very bottom. I said I would put Alex Smith at 1 if it made sense to. He played just getting back on the field, just taking a snap and getting sacked 4 times by Aaron Donald. Being able to do that, that's phenomenal. Another thing about Alex Smith, people should leave Alex Smith alone. People keep saying, I see this online all the time. People are like, Alex Smith should not play football again. And the reason is because they're afraid for Alex Smith. If the man wants to play football and doctors in the team are saying you can play football, let him play football and just leave him the hell alone. Don't be trying to impose your own fright or fear onto Alex Smith.
Why would anybody be afraid for somebody else anyways?
This is I don't get it. Because I understand, if the family is afraid, obviously the wife is a little upset or a little worried in the stands. Of course you are. But at the same point, I don't, why would a random fan who's never met Alex Smith before in his life go out on Twitter and say he should not play football because I'm worried he's going to get hurt? That's not how this game works.
Well, it's the way the world works anymore, though, because everybody's soft as hell. They just are. Everybody's a damn sissy anymore. Oh, we're afraid he's going to get hit. That's why we can't blindside block anybody anymore. Which annoys the hell out of me because if a guy's chasing a play and he turns and he's 3 steps from making tackle and somebody comes up and blocks him, now they flag it. That pisses me off.
Well, it's not even necessarily hard collisions anymore. I see guys walk up and put their hands up and kind of bump the dude and they still get flagged for it.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, if somebody's getting ready to tackle the guy and he don't see you, you ought to wipe his ass out. That's part of football. My high school football team this year has had 2 personal fouls all year, and they were on blindside blocks where the guy that got blocked would have made the tackle if we would have just let him run and get him. And I just think it's pathetic. You're playing football. It's kind of like boxing, the old Mills Lane, protect yourself at all times. You're playing football. You got pads on. Everybody's getting hit. Protect yourself. It's not like you're getting hit in the back. I can see it if somebody comes up and throws a forearm into your head, but it's not. It's just a block. It's a clean play. And the thing that gets me is, the official. When I complained a little bit, he goes, well, that's obviously a penalty. He said, that's uncalled for. I'm like, dude, 1987, it wasn't uncalled for. It would have been on an ESPN highlight film because he just busted that dude and made him twitch around on the ground I don't know. It just, the softness of today, it just drives me nuts. Now I see if you hit somebody in the head, that should be a penalty. Hell, you ought to be thrown out of the game. When you come up and shoulder block somebody who's getting ready to make a tackle, What the hell? It's just like when you see a receiver go up 40 yards downfield and catch the ball, and the defender comes in and just nails him, doesn't even hit him in the head, and knocks the ball loose, but it's a penalty. I mean, the only way you can stop that dude from catching the ball is to hit him really hard to knock it loose. I don't know. I'm just tired of it.
It feels like refs are calling plays when they see something that looks like a hard hit. It feels like they're just automatically throwing the flag now sometimes.
Yeah, because they don't want anybody to get hurt. But if you don't want to get hurt, don't play football. Baker Mayfield is limited in practice. Still confident he'll play against the Steelers. That's a huge game this week. Pittsburgh and Cleveland could be a rivalry against certain this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, undefeated team gets the 4-1 Cleveland Browns. I wrote an article saying, not for this side, but for a different one, saying that the Browns have a little bit of an offense going now. They've got a little bit of a formula for winning football games. And really, it's going to be interesting to see how that running game matches up against Pittsburgh's defense, which really specializes in stopping the run at this point. It's going to be a great game. I'm actually excited to watch a competitive Cleveland Browns Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Yeah, when's the last time we saw a competitive Browns-Steelers game? Before you
maybe
were born,
not during
right?
my lifetime, honestly.
I think maybe the 1994 NFL playoffs.
Yeah, like I said, not during my lifetime.
I'm serious. They played in the playoffs in 94 when Belichick was the Browns coach. The Browns had beaten Parcells and the Patriots in the wild card game. Then they went to Pittsburgh. I think they lost by like 10, but I think that's the last time I remember a Cleveland-Pittsburgh game that really meant anything. And that was the same year I got married, and that was 25 years ago. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, they've only had, since 1994, they only have one trip to the playoffs in 2000.
Yeah, well, we get some Steelers, so we can call that game. Remember, that was the 2002 game, which you're probably not old enough to remember either, where the Browns jumped out to a huge lead, and then Tommy Maddox, the immortal Tommy Maddox, led the Steelers back to win the game.
22 points in the fourth quarter.
That was Tommy Maddox, wasn't it?
Yeah, right? That had to have been that time period.
Yeah, because he came out of the XFL. He was the MVP of the $1 million game, which is what they called the XFL championship game back then.
Was it actually worth $1 million?
I don't know because I didn't watch it because I didn't give a shit. So nobody did. I mean, the XFL was something that the first week, everybody watched it. The second week, well, about half those people watched it. And by week 3, nobody cared anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's usually how that kind of stuff goes, right?
Yeah. Now, the Denver Broncos running back Melvin Gordon was charged Tuesday night with driving under the influence and speeding between 25 and 39 miles per hour over the limit. Yeah, geez. So it looks like he'll be in trouble. He'll be arraigned on November the 13th.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting for them. They already have 2 decent running backs still in Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. So I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be a huge loss for them. The same
point because Lindsay's been banged up too.
That's true. If he doesn't get healthy, it will definitely be a problem.
All right, guys. Anything else, Sam?
One more piece of NFL news. It's Chandler Jones' season-ending surgery, so he's done for the year. Obviously, he came second in the sack race last season. He's basically been Arizona's best defender for the last couple of years. So with him out for the year, and all hope for Arizona is gone. It was pretty much gone already, but definitely now. The Arizona Cardinals are dead in the water without him.
Okay. Well, I don't remember thinking they'd make the playoffs like you did, so it's not really a big deal to me that they're dead in the water. Your Denver Broncos look to be dead in the water, too. You didn't do real good on your picks so far this year.
No, I'm kind of struggling here a little bit. I went for some fringe teams that turned out they were just busts.
I don't even remember who I picked in anything.
I don't remember either, honestly.
I think I did pick the Browns to be a wild card, though, and you mocked me.
I probably did, but to be honest, if you had said at any point in the last 20 years that the Browns were going to be a wild card team, you would have been mocked by anyone.
But they have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and if you can run the ball, you can win football games. At least I didn't pick the Bengals to go anywhere.
Well, yeah, but you're a realist, though. You wouldn't have done that.
No, I'm not stupid. We got a Bengals show that'll be on tomorrow night with me, Ty Robbins, and former Cincinnati Bengal linebacker Joe Kelly. And I don't think I think I did pick them to beat Jacksonville. So that's the only time I've picked them, I think, in the last 2 years. That's how bad Jacksonville is.
Yeah. I mean, really, I think you should pick them against one of the teams in the opening weeks. I think you picked them against.
Oh, yeah, I picked them against the Chargers the first week.
Yeah, the Chargers, that's who it was. Yeah, the first week.
Yeah, that was just stupid optimism. And I'm not a very optimistic person, so I'm back down to reality. So I probably won't pick him again this year. Not until they get an adult to be the head coach, at least. So I'm hoping maybe Mike Zimmer gets fired and he comes back to Cincinnati. I'd like to see, maybe Wade Phillips or Mike Zimmer be the head coach and the other one be the defensive coordinator. I think that would be a good staff.
You got plenty. You're gonna have plenty of options. There's gonna be plenty of people getting fired this year.
Well, that's the problem, though. There won't be plenty of options to get coaches unless you get a guy that's fired, because there are going to be so many job openings by the time this is done that who wants to come to Cincinnati and work for Mike Brown?
Yeah, that's a good point, honestly. You have to get rid of Zach Taylor sooner rather than later, Mike, if you want to get one of those guys.
Yeah, I think one of the Bengal cheerleaders could probably do a better job than Zach Taylor.
I mean, really, he's never been a coordinator, but you hire him to be a head coach.
And he becomes the coordinator and the head coach. So two things he's never done, and he's done them very, very poorly so far. So I think his career record is what? They've won 3 games, and they got a tie. Unfortunately, they've got like 20 losses. So
yeah,
it happens. Maybe he can be the next Dave Shule, and they'll let him hang out for 5 years before they execute his ass. But all right. I want to remind everybody, check out Replenishing Care and Technologies at rcandt.com. You can follow myself at Grueling Truth. You can follow Sam at SamTeets33. You can hear or see our show live every day at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitch, Periscope. You can get the podcast version of the show an hour or two later every day around 2 or 3 o'clock. It'll be up. You can hear that on Rockfin, or see it on Rockfin. You can hear it on almost any podcast network out there, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it, the Grueling Truth's there. So for now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening and watching to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.